Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Evening Devotion. Tonight we're going to be reading out of Hebrews 11:13. These all died in faith. The whole verse says, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. So this is everybody in the Old Testament. They knew it was coming. They were aware of the Messiah. We know this. Many of them mentioned the Messiah. Job pops to mind immediately. Many of the prophets from the Old Testament, they also make a clear mention. They knew what was going to happen. They never saw it. And I think at one point they finally got to the place where they realized they weren't. It was for a future generation. Even 2,000 years ago, they have prophecies that are speaking of a time that's going to be for the end generation, not theirs. So they knew this was coming. They believed God and believed his promises. They were assured it was going to happen, and they walked in faith because of it. We can do that too, because we're in the generation that's about to receive all this stuff. So let's go up here. All right, we'll start here in verse 6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. The Bible literally tells you what to believe. Believe that, you're good. You're in good company. By faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, preparing an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. This man preached 120 years and not a single person heard him. This man built a boat for 120 years, gathered up all these animals, prepared everything. No evidence that any of this was going to happen. But he believed God. Okay, if that's what you say, I believe it. What are these? These are all examples to us now. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. He just started walking. By faith, he dwelt in the land of promise as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. By faith, Sarah herself also received strength to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the age, because she judged him, the Lord, faithful, who had promised. He promised it, he's going to keep it. Her and Abraham even laughed. Is this possible? But they believed God. Therefore, from one man, and him as good as dead, were born as many as the stars of the sky in multitude, innumerable as the sand which is by the seashore. These all died in faith. Everybody before you and I, everybody before this book was written, all died in faith. Not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. And this even comes up to our most recent history, 1948, and the people that were alive then. You see many people talking about, my grandparents told me this, and some of them were still alive and up until recently, and said, we knew this. We knew that this was the fig tree generation, and we knew that the time was now. And many of them told their grandchildren, their children and grandchildren, I'm not going to see the Lord, but you will, because you're going to be in that time frame, because they understood the scriptures back then. But see, hardly anybody talks about this. Hardly anybody. That back then in 1948, they knew what was about to happen. They knew there were certain promises that they weren't going to be partakers of. We have the promises of Christ and everything that he's done in salvation, but the final generation, they knew we're the generation prior to the final generation. This is amazing. You and I are here to see this. What a blessing. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind the country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is, a heavenly country. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, And he who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called. And that was the Lord. Concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from which he also received him in a figurative sense. So when he decided to test Abraham knew the Lord just told me he was going to bring up all nations to Isaac. Now he wants me to sacrifice him. He's either going to bring him back to life or he's going to stop me. He knew. He trusted the Lord. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshipped leaning on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the departure of the children of Israel and gave instructions concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. And this keeps going. It keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going. This is an amazing chapter. Behold the epitaph of all those blessed saints who fell asleep before the coming of our Lord. This is everybody prior to, 2 BC? Everybody prior to that. It matters nothing how else they died, whether of old age or by violent means. This one point in which they all agree is the most worthy of record. They all died in faith. In faith they lived. It was their comfort, their guide, their motive, and their support. And in the same spiritual grace they died, ending their life song in the sweet strain in which they had so long continued. They did not die resting in the flesh or upon their own attainments. They made no advance from their first way of acceptance with God, but held to the way of faith to the end. Faith is as precious to die by as to live by. Dying in faith has distinct reference to the past. They believed the promises which had gone before, and were assured that their sins were blotted out through the mercy of God. Dying in faith has to do with the present. These saints were confident of their acceptance with God. They enjoyed the beams of his love and rested in his faithfulness. This is a lesson for you and I today. A lot of people are struggling with this today. Let the saints of old be an example to us. Dying in faith looks into the future. Dying in faith looks into the future. They fell asleep, affirming that the Messiah would surely come, and that when he would, in the last days, appear upon the earth, they would rise from their graves to behold him. To them the pains of death were but the birth pangs of a better state. Take courage, my soul, as thou readest this epitaph. Thy course, through grace, is one of faith, and sight seldom cheers thee. This has also been the pathway of the brightest and the best. Faith was the orbit in which these stars of the first magnitude moved all the time of their shining year, and happy art thou that it is thine. Look anew tonight to Jesus, the author and finisher of thy faith, and thank him for giving thee, like precious faith, with souls now in glory. And you know, this all started. We come to faith, and we walk in this Christian walk, and we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us, that paved the way for us, starting all the way back with Adam and Eve, through Noah, through Moses, through Abraham, then through Moses, on down through all the prophets, down to Christ himself when he arrived 2,000 years ago, and then through the apostles, and then through everybody who came into faith after that, all the way through the generations to right now, this very moment. We come from a long, long line of faithful believers. And by spirit, we're all family. Those are our brothers and sisters, dying in faith. We will have our time too, unless the Lord comes back first. Then we won't. Then we'll be taken. And everything that we see and everything that's happening, it looks like that's right on top of us right now. Listen to this. If Psalm 90:10, I've talked about this many times. A lot of people are giving up and saying, oh no, it's not going to happen. Well, if Psalm 90:10 is an indicator and references to that or connects to that, we still got a few years. Not a few years until these things happen, but a few years in which these things can happen. People think that, oh, it's all past and done. No. The 70th birthday from 1948 was 2018. The 80th will be 2028. So there's still time. You can't give up on it now. And the more information we find, and the new information that's come out, namely the Essenes prophecies, paint a very detailed, very clear picture of the time we're in. This year is the year of transition to the final Jubilee, the final 50 years, which starts March of next year. Everything is supposed to unfold during that final Jubilee. It's literally been 120 Jubilees. This is incredible. What a time to be alive. But if our time comes, if our appointed time comes and we die in faith, what a glorious death. To die in faith, knowing if I die now, the Lord will keep his promises concerning me. And when the time comes, I will rise to see him. What a glorious thing. What an amazing thing. And we all have this promise and so many others. Just our entire walk with Christ is just rife with promises. Do we believe them? The problem today is a lot of people just don't read their Bible, and so they don't see these things. Because if they did, it would be very encouraging to them, and they would learn to walk instead of crawl. They would learn to be able to graduate to spiritual meat instead of staying on spiritual milk all the time. And they would be able to go out there and speak with confidence the scriptures and what they say. That's not the state of things today. The great apostasy is happening. People are wandering away, falling away, running away from the truth. That's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way. Why now, when we're so close to the finish line and we can see it, why now would anyone give up? It's just the way things have to be. Prophecy must be fulfilled, and so here we are. But I take great encouragement from all those that went before. And we know they're all real, and their names are carved in stone here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, severe thunderstorms. They just chased us back from San Antonio. I had a doctor's appointment today. 84 miles one way for 6 minutes of a peripheral vision test, and then fighting traffic getting back. It was nuts. People driving crazy. And I'm about to take a trip this weekend. So, these all died in faith. If they held on to promises that they never saw, us being the recipient of those promises to a certain degree, why can't we hang on to faith? Because when we get closer to the end, there's a great straining of faith. Now, again, we can go back to Psalm 90:10. What does it say? A generation is 70 years. 80 if by strength, but its boast is labor and sorrows. The last 10 years have been that. This last 10 years so far, from 70 to 80, from 2018 on, has been that. Interesting, so many of us were awakened for the beginning of this last 10 years. I find that interesting. The Lord's doing something amazing. But labor and sorrows. 80 years if by strength. So it's going to be a rough go of it. Well, hello, we're there. Has it not been a rough go of it? Sure it has. All the more reason to hold on, because if all those people back then held on, knowing most of them knew, if not all of them knew, they would never see the fulfillment of these promises. They were holding on to them, knowing that a future generation would receive them. If they can hold on, why can't we hold on, being the recipients of those promises? Those promises of salvation, of grace, of mercy. So let's hold on. Let's do them proud. Them being our forefathers, our precursors, bringing us up to this age. Them walking in faith, paving the way for us to walk in faith. Let us make them proud by walking in faith. Hearing their words here in the scriptures, believing on the name of the Lord, and walking in the light and in faith. And taking the fruit they started all that time ago, and that fruit is still passing through now. and enriching it with ours and adding to it for the glory of the Lord. It's the only way to walk. It's the only way for us to go. Keep your eyes on the Lord. Walk on water. And when the time comes, looking like it's going to be very soon, we will go be with him and see all of our brethren and stand in glory. I love you all very much. I bless you all in Jesus' name, and I'll see you in the next video.